Christians should study nature, should understand nature, because nature can teach you something. So, should we just throw out the red pill, guys? The descriptors, the truth of nature? No. So
Uh,
we talked about the
I
red.
would say, throw out the red pill at your own risk. If it's truth, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass.
Yeah, the Bible supports the red pill. The red pill's, I think, a moral good. We've discussed what the red pill is.
Now,
And really,
okay,
the red
let
problem is
me
the descriptors, I think.
let me point out something, a criticism of the red pill.
Okay.
Red pill is trying to understand truth, but not willing to go to the Bible and go deeper to understand the biblical side of things. So, okay, the nature is still going to act on people, but they're only willing to go so far. So they're missing the depth and the cohesiveness and how it all relates to the nature. The true
Yeah,
nature.
sure.
They're
Yeah.
kind of stuck on behavior and
Hmm.
thinking that you can modify or achieve a good result by acting in a certain way to affect the behavior of a woman. And maybe they're not really understanding the nature of women. Well, maybe more so they are, but they're not understanding the nature of themselves. They're staying a little bit too shallow. Okay,
Hey, Steve,
that's what I'm going to say. What do you say to
you
that?
you you sounded like you described something a little bit. I'm struggling with the phrase. What we covert something?
Covert contract?
Covert operative. No,
Oh,
no,
Mm.
no. Nick's got it. Covert contract.
yes, covert contract. If you're just running around thinking that women are video games that you control with a gamepad and a joystick and you push buttons and things just magically happen, then that's a covert contract. It isn't you put X input in and you get Y output back. That's
Oh,
not how it works.
yeah. There's an old red pill phrase from the Dalrock days that describes this. Dance, monkey, dance.
Wait, didn't we do an
Dance
episode on
monkey dance.
that recently too?
Oh,
So,
I
in
don't know if
order
we did an
to
episode, but
cause a woman to behave in a certain way, you have to game her 24/7. You have to perform an favor for her to behave in a way. So you can never, ever let up your guard. So that's the problem with game because it's dance, monkey, dance. Well, there's some truth to that,
yeah.
but it's still kind of lacking in a certain way. Go ahead, Nick.
We've laid a foundation. Some of our audience are Christians, probably some aren't. But we've explained what the red pill is. We've explained, well, red pill's a moral good. The red pill presents truth, and the Bible supports the finding of truth in nature. But we're going to see again and again that it's really the truth that's the problem. The descriptors are the problem. So we had that episode. File that away in the back of your mind as we're going through some of this Dalrock. So we're bringing about what Dalrock thinks the Manospheres, the red pill is, and how he interacts with some Christians and some more tradcons. So this is an article from Dalrock on May 15th, 2013. What is the Manosphere? Anybody want to read it?
Where do you want me to start? I can read it. Do you want me to start with the quote or the actual article?
Nah, let me just start right
I
here.
got to go
I
check
generally
on the dog.
Uh-oh.
Uh-uh. Is
So
it
he's
blown
got
up enough?
Yeah, it's blown up enough. It's just, do you want me to start with the quote at the top or the article from this Krauser PUA guy?
No, I'll just start. I generally shy away.
Okay. I generally shy away from focusing on definitions due to their tendency to take us into intractable rat holes. But the fact remains that definitions are important. In the case of the term manosphere, this is especially important because there is a tendency outside the sphere to mistake the manosphere for a collection of readers and writers who are in general intellectual agreement. There's a kernel of truth in that to that belief, but it misses the truly profound differences in worldviews held by the main schools of thought in the manosphere. With the breadth of opinions within the sphere in mind, I can only offer my own definition and allow an opportunity in the comments for those who want to have a different take or to have a different take to offer their own. One way to look at the manosphere is historically, and since the sphere itself is quite new, this only means a few years back. This isn't to say that those in the sphere have only been active for a few years, but the concept of the manosphere only goes back a few years to my knowledge. Just a year or two back, I would have offered a very simple definition of the sphere. If you were somewhat regularly included in Ferdinand Bartimeau's weekly link roundup, I would argue that this made you a de facto member of the manosphere. This is a very broad definition because Ferdinand drew from an incredible breadth of perspectives in his link roundup. I don't think it's an exaggeration to state that his link roundups played a central role in knitting together extremely different groups into a common conversation. And a conversation is what I would argue the manosphere really is. Perhaps more accurately, the manosphere is the place where the conversation occurs, not unlike the broader term blogosphere. By this definition, being a member of the manosphere doesn't suggest much about your point of view, but it identifies you as engaging in the discussion. However, while there is no such thing as a common manosphere orthodoxy, I would argue that's still true today. There are a set of core ideas held by nearly everyone in the manosphere. Interestingly, these aren't the ideas the sphere is commonly accused of being an echo chamber for. In fact, the ideas claimed to be the manosphere orthodoxy are where the biggest active faults exist within the sphere. Oh, interesting. Game is the most prominent example of this. There's significant disagreement on whether game works, and if it works, whether it is moral. I offer the 599 comment discussion in response to Kane Caldo's guest post on the topic and the heated semi-formal debates on the topic hosted by A Voice for Men. Likewise, the social pathologist has challenged the concept of the feminine imperative, as have Kane Caldo and many of my readers. Unlike game and the concept of the feminine imperative, what nearly everyone in the manosphere agrees on is the extensive tearing of the social contract by decades of feminist tinkering. For me, this is mostly about marriage and our adoption of a radically new model of the family. Interestingly, you can frame all of the main factions of the manosphere based on how they respond to the debasement of marriage. Oh, I would argue this is truer today than it was back then.
Yes.
While I point out the debasement of marriage in order to try to restore something precious, Roisey makes it his life goal to enjoy all of the young sluts our society is sending his way while they postpone their search for a husband. In my post, Dating Stanton's Heroes, I showed how Professor Mentu similarly chooses to respond to the glut of mothers who eject their children's fathers from the home. Even here, though, Roisey and Mentu understand how foolish the larger society is for allowing and encouraging all of this to happen. Oh, you mean you can enjoy the fact that young sluts exist and recognize that it's a really bad idea? Wow. This paradox is exemplified by the very kind comment from Krauser PUA quoted at the beginning of the post, which we didn't read. A third group looks at the destruction of traditional marriage and basically says, good riddance, MRA and MGTOW. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
As with any simplification, these descriptions of categories aren't perfect, and not everyone in the manosphere fits neatly into one category. Also, even within each category, there can be significant breadth of perspectives. Still, I like to think this description of the main camps of the sphere is roughly accurate and helps conceptualize the main differences between them. So we have three main groups, which all acknowledge feminism's radical change in the social contract while strongly disagreeing on how to respond to this reality. My own camp might be called the traditionalist segment of the manosphere, and we mourn the loss of marriage and are working to find solutions to shore up culture, laws in the church, as well as specific steps individual men can take to reduce their exposure to the risk of frivolous divorce, going all the way
And
back
aren't
to
we doing that?
by this definition, we're probably in the traditionalist, but I would also argue we have a pretty heavy dose of MRA MGTOW because of our
Well,
experience with the law.
Dalrock was not TradCon. He was traditionalist.
Yes.
I would side with Dalrock in our belief.
Yeah.
We are not TradCons. Who
No.
tend to dismiss the descriptors. Dalrock embraced the descriptors, but yet was traditional. Yeah, that's how I would describe myself.
Me too. And here's what happens. The same result that he's talking about is happening even now, especially with our group as well. When he says that, did you stop at any given time?
Yes.
Yeah, you can start
I can
again.
keep reading if you'd like.
Yeah, it's good right there at any
Okay.
given time.
At any given time, and depending on the topic at hand, two of the three groups, traditional marriage, Royce's group, the slutmongers, and the MRA MGTOW, tend to be in agreement in disagreeing with the third group. However, this is very fluid, and the alliances are intellectual and topic specific. There's generally a baseline respect for the fact that these fault lines exist, which can initially make it shocking to read, say, an Orthodox Christian and a pickup artist reinforcing each other's intellectual arguments. Yeah, that would be jarring for your average ChadCon. They absolutely aren't in agreement with each other on the question of sexual morality, but there will be times they are in agreement on the facts, etc., of any given issue. Since these core fault lines are so intractable between the groups, there's generally some effort not to make them the focus of the discussion and agree to disagree. These dormant fault lines are always there, but some care is taken to avoid perpetually getting locked in the same discussions over core values. I just want to say that we should probably bring a little bit of this back. This mentality back would be a good idea. This doesn't mean the question is off the table. It just means that after so many rounds, everyone has already made their case. Absolutely. The closest there is to a manosphere orthodoxy involves acknowledging the reality of the new order and responding with something other than man up and marry those sluts. Oh my God, this article is 12 years old and we are still making the exact same arguments.
Oh, man.
Oh my God. Cross either of those.
Have you seen the news lately? Man up and marry those former garden tools.
Yeah.
That are now in the church.
Oh yeah, the whole Nala blow up this. God.
And everyone else.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is back in 2013.
Yes. So this article's 12 years, well, almost 12 years old. Okay. Cross either of those two lines, and all three groups are in sudden agreement. You won't be run out of town on a rail, but I would offer that the Manosphere is well prepared to engage in those discussions, and I've never seen anyone make a solid case for nothing to see here, folks, move along, or man up and marry those sluts. Dude, people are trying.
They started to get in the RP though. Some that started to sneak in the RP.
I am aware. I have a list of names, although that's not for public. There
Okay.
is a reason such divergent groups are participating together in a common conversation, which goes beyond the previous uniting effect of Ferdinand's Link roundup. Feminism has been so completely successful in changing the culture and taking over all of our social institutions that opposing feminism has become one of the great taboos of our society. Still true today. Making this
Happened to me in
worse,
the church.
yes.
Yep.
Making this worse, very few are even aware of this because the lion's share of feminist thinking is no longer thought of as feminist thinking. It is simply
True.
thought of as normal thinking, or more accurately, right thinking. He's riffing on Orwell here. Opposing feminism has become the heresy of our age, a thought crime few dare even contemplate. The sickness of feminism is everywhere, but it is most striking in our churches.
There you go. You retards in the church. You idiots. I'm not speaking to actually the mentally retarded, but those
Yes,
stupid idiots.
because if you were speaking to the actual mentally retarded, you'd be doing them a grave disservice by putting these two in the same sentence.
Come on. Okay, this is profound, but everybody can think of this. You got friends. You get 3, 4 guys together and you discuss something. Politics, something kind of heated. A lot of those guys won't agree with you. And the alliances or at least between you are very fluid. You can agree with another guy on this point against this guy over here. Then the conversation shifts and you agree with that guy against this guy. It's nothing. There are no permanent enemies.
Steve,
among men. With
Feminists are
women,
my permanent enemies.
once
yes,
she's
Steve, yes.
bad, it's permanent.
That's the
Or
longhouse.
once the man is bad, it's permanent.
Right.
Men don't operate.
The longhouse is your permanent enemy.
The
Feminism
longhouse.
is the permanent enemy.
Once the longhouse decides that a man or woman is bad, she is bad forever, and for all things. So if you're a man,
I'm bad.
We all are here. If you're a man and you walk around with this attitude of I'm right, you're wrong, and everyone agrees with me, you're not a man. You're a feminist in a male skin suit, because that's how feminists operate. Feminists got as far as they did by convincing everyone that not only were they right, but that everyone else agreed with them that they were right. And they got everyone to agree to that by telling you that everyone agreed with them.
Now, in divorce, here's what happens. A woman will accuse you of some egregious sexual matter. He tried to grape me. Oh, he's a PDF file, or he has inclinations toward PDF files. And once, okay, that is just so strong. There's such an aversion to that all of a sudden, man bad. And now she builds upon that to therefore he's wrong about everything. And she is vindicated and blameless about everything. And yeah, there are some problems in her own heart between her and God that never see the light of day. Happens all the time.
Shu dropped an interesting comment in here. Being perceived as bad in a fallen world can be a great thing. Narrow path. It's the reference to the narrow path, I think, is key here. Yeah, if you're on the narrow path, the longhouse is going to decide you're bad. Chief, churches are full of pseudo husbands. I love it. Managerial nerds that can't figure out scripture or reality. They'd FOMO over Enron pre-collapse. Ouch. Oh, how. Burn. Love it, Chief. All right. So do you want me to continue?
Oh yeah, because now we're starting. See, this is the Dalrock track. It's getting good.
All right. The cultural transformation has been so swift and so profound that most of what the Bible teaches on the topics of marriage and men and women is now quite literally unthinkable and unspeakable. This is again, he's referencing Orwell here. In nearly
Yes.
all of polite Christian company, the biblical frame of marriage is simply too radical for all but a handful of pastors to preach. As a result, the conversations Christians have in the manosphere today cannot occur anywhere else.
Yeah.
The basic misunderstanding of what the manosphere is becomes most visible when bloggers or commenters from outside the sphere are engaging someone from the manosphere either on a manosphere blog or especially an off-sphere blog. Part of the misunderstanding comes from how foreign and radical, even politely offered, moderately anti-feminist thinking is to those outside the sphere. Because opposing the new feminist order is even moderately is now so radical, and there are multiple camps participating in the conversation, those from outside the manosphere very often initially badly misread whom they are interacting with. For example, it isn't uncommon for very solid traditional members of the manosphere to be misidentified as either PUA or MGTOW. Yes, have experienced
Yes, or
that.
black pill even.
Yeah, oh yes, experienced lots of that. Even
I
when
do
their
too.
arguments are clearly traditional. For those who are new to the manosphere, I would suggest being aware of how different the participants tend to be in any given discussion, and not to mistake agreement by two individuals on a point of fact to necessarily indicate broader agreement than is really there.
Oh,
Mhm.
so the red pill is all degenerate, guys.
No.
How many times have we come across that?
Oh, Manny.
And they're talking
Oh,
about the pickup artist. That
Nick, you said something many months ago, and I've stuck with it. What was it you said? No enemies to the right of me?
right. That's correct. Netter. Yeah.
I might not agree with everything that people in the red pill practice. This does not stop me from talking to them. It does not stop me from agreeing with them. It also does not stop me from calling them out. And you can see all of that in what Dalrock is talking about here. There were
Yes.
violent disagreements amongst these people. But where there was agreement, the agreement was absolute. And they would, and it, for the people coming in, it's, they see two people fighting, and the people on the outside, they look at this, and as Dalrock is talking about, oh, these radical people, how dare they say these things? And they see two people fighting, and they think, oh, I can exploit that. They disagree, and then they get blown up when the two people who are disagreeing both turn to the person and go, "You fucking idiot," and they agree, and then the person's like, "But you were just disagreeing." Yeah. We were having a disagreement over how we might approach a specific problem, or what a specific description should actually be defined, on the basis of their own worldview. But they did not agree on the core tenets, or they did not disagree on the core tenets.
Yeah. The data's still there.
The nature is still there.
Right. All right. So that is the end of that one. So, man, he really got the manosphere correct. I'm not saying it's 100% correct, but back in 2013, that's what the manosphere and guess what you call early red pill was.
Steve, would you agree with Dalrock's assessment of the red pill back in your time?
Yeah, well, that's how men operate today.